Hello everyone, I'm Michael Serapio. The Prime Minister is losing another member of his cabinet. As expected earlier today, Pablo Rodriguez quit as Minister of Transport and Quebec Lieutenant. Mr. Rodriguez intends to run for the leadership of the Quebec Liberal Party, but he's also choosing to sit as an independent MP until the race begins, in part because he wants to be free to express his opinions, which he says does not always align with the government's.
Now I have the opportunity to set my own priorities. I was defending the priorities of the government and I did it in a very loyal way, and it's normal and it's what I had to do. But now it's more about my vision, the vision of the team that I'm building. That's what I'm going to put forward for Quebecers.
Anita Anand will now take on the duties of the Transport Minister along with her current duties as Treasury Board President. The Public Services and Procurement Minister, Jean-Yves Duclos, becomes Trudeau's Quebec Lieutenant. Well, for more on all this, we're now joined by our political strategist. Stevie O'Brien is a former Chief of Staff to Liberal ministers, now Counsel and Senior Advisor at Macmillan Advantage. Cole Hogan is a Conservative digital strategist and principal of GT & Company. And Nasha Brownridge is a former NDP strategist, now a senior consultant at Strategy Corps. Hello to the three of you.
Hello.
So, we have to begin with Mr. Rodriguez here, right? Quitting cabinet, but not just quitting cabinet, also deciding to sit as an independent MP so he can feel freer to express his own viewpoint when it differs with the government. What does that say, Stevie, about cabinet solidarity, caucus solidarity in this moment in time that he feels free to leave and now sit independently?
I don't think it says too much about cabinet solidarity or about caucus. I think this is really a very specific issue that Pablo Rodriguez needed to have the flexibility to critique the government in his bid to get the for the leadership for the Liberal Party in Quebec. So I don't think he's trying to send a message. I don't think I think it's unfortunate that that's going to be one of the interpretations coming out of this. But I think it's really he just needed the space. You saw all of the nice things people said yesterday when we knew this announcement was coming. He's well liked in caucus. He's well liked by cabinet, and I think it's just an unfortunate reality of the new job he's pursuing.
Nicole, what do you think?
Well, I think, Mr. Rodriguez has obviously earned to decide things on his own terms, but apparently he's decided that he would rather be in opposition in Quebec than in governments in Ottawa under Justin Trudeau. And apparently, the association with Trudeau and the federal Liberals is so toxic, you can perceive his perception to be that he wants enough distance that he can enter a provincial, Quebec Liberal leadership race without the baggage of Justin Trudeau. And that's why he's sitting as an independent, to differentiate himself from the current Liberal brand and keep as much distance as he can in the meantime.
Okay, Nasha, what do you take out of it?
So I don't think it would surprise anyone to say the Liberals are struggling right now. They just lost a stronghold seat in Quebec just this past Monday, and now they have a minister who's resigned who is really well liked. I think it's important to note that he hasn't resigned, but he is sitting as an independent, as we've just discussed. And that also avoids another by-election, which is maybe a gift, a parting gift, as we'll call it, from Rodriguez to the Liberal Party, because right now, I think they know it would be a very hard one to win.
Well, of course, losing the two important ones for the Liberals bookending the summer. You want to jump in, I can see.
I would say, I think Minister Rodriguez would have had conversations with the party, with the Prime Minister, and they would have tried to figure out the best way forward for everybody. And this, no by-election was definitely a positive in the one column, but perhaps his ability to be more flexible was a positive for him.
Although, it's also interesting, as much as the Liberals suffered the by-election losses, the top and the tail this summer. What's interesting is that we knew that the Conservatives, out of their caucus meeting, were going to introduce a motion of non-confidence at the earliest opportunity. And really, as government, the House Leader, Karina Gould, could have played around a little bit, pushed the opposition day towards the end of this session. But that's not what is happening. We're now looking at a motion of non-confidence next week. So what does it say that the government felt confident enough to allow the opposition day, for everything people are saying about how Liberals are struggling right now, they were not afraid to let this opposition day happen?
It's a sign of strength. I think it's a sign that the Prime Minister, as he's been saying, and not everyone keeps believing him, but he's ready for a fight. He's saying, bring it. And the fact that we've seen both the Bloc and the NDP come out to say they are not going to be supporting the motion, he will be able to come out week 2 of the House and say, look, we have the confidence of the House. Parliament can work, we can still get things done and hopefully lower the temperature.
Although I don't, even if it's defeated next week, I would assume any opposition day that comes forward, there will be a motion of confidence going forward. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the Liberals knew that the NDP would cave. They looked at the numbers and said, well, they're not going to want an election, neither will the Bloc. They want to get as much as they can in the meantime. Both of these parties are weak right now. They're not going to vote in favor of a non-confidence motion, and the Liberals knew that. That's why they probably like, all right, have your opposition day whenever you want, because we know we have these other two opposition parties over a barrel.
Okay, Nasha?
I think it's interesting because the NDP said when they ripped up the supply and confidence agreement that they would take each vote just that way, vote by vote. So while, yes, I can understand why some people are like, why wouldn't the Liberals push it? I think the Liberals maybe did call a bluff. I don't completely disagree. They knew that either the Bloc, the NDP, or both would vote against because now isn't the time. But the NDP also said when they ripped up the agreement that they were going to be trying to stop Poilievre from playing games in the House of Commons. And I think that's also what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because, of course, the Conservatives need both the Bloc and the NDP in order to bring down the Liberal government. They need the support of all those MPs. Does it look bad, though, after releasing what was a very dramatic video tearing up the supply and confidence agreement, that you now have the NDP leader actually not supporting this motion of non-confidence?
You know what I suspect is going to happen? The Conservatives can change the text of the motion up to Tuesday when it's tabled. And I bet now they are going to now rewrite it using some of Singh's language and make him say again, turning down his own words. And I think that they are going to use every opportunity, not just to bring the non-confidence vote, but to make Singh squirm. I think that is another strategy that they're going to do. So I would anticipate that the language of the motion will actually be different on Tuesday.
Well, you're right, because while Pierre Poilievre shared the wording of the motion as it is right now, it's not yet tabled, so it can change between now and next Tuesday. Co, what do you think?
I think every instance of the NDP propping up the Liberal government is another nail in the coffin for the New Democrats in terms of their credibility. When they continue to vote for the Liberals, that's another time that Poilievre and the Conservatives can get up and say this. Like, what Canadians will ask the NDP during the next election is, why should we vote for you when you vote for Trudeau? And every time that Singh continues to vote to prop up this government, that question will get increased in rhetorical flourish.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking to October 10th, which is the pharmacare when pharmacare is anticipated to pass through the Senate. I think that's probably one of the things that the NDP would like to get done before they reconsider their position on a confidence motion. So after Thanksgiving, it might be a different game. Okay,
after Thanksgiving, it might be different. But right now, how bad does it look for the NDP to have this opportunity to bring down a government which they have essentially lambasted in this video on YouTube at the first opportunity to do so?
So I don't think the NDP never said they were going to tear down the government. They were tearing up the agreement, and there is a difference. So while they're going to take every vote as it is, vote by vote, and see when there is merit, I also do agree with Stevie that timing matters. And right now, they're not rushing to an election, but if there is one, they'll be ready to go. But a big piece is that pharmacare has not passed yet. And the NDP has been saying today, they know that Pierre Poilievre doesn't want it to go through, and they're not going to let him take down a very, very important piece of legislation for Canadians.
Mm-hmm. Now, here we are, the first week back into this session, or into this parliament, the beginning of this session. And I have to say, the gloves are off. The language right now is flying on all sides, but what's interesting is watching how aggressive the government is being right now, calling Mr. Poilievre a liar, accusing Mr. Singh of abandoning progressive values. Again, the Liberals are still 20 points behind the polls, behind the Conservatives. Very far behind. They have been for a year. Can the government gain some traction with this type of strategy?
I think if you take this type of strategy, they're being more aggressive. They're campaign ready, or getting that sort of campaign Trudeau out. He's good on his feet that way. But you marry that with what's happening south of the border and the rhetoric that we're seeing coming out of Donald Trump, and we're showing that as sort of an alternative. I think the Liberals really want to have an election after the American election, so that people have seen that and perhaps want to rethink their choice of leader up here.
Cool.
Yeah, I watched Karina Gould and the Liberal government sort of go at Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives, and I think the Liberal Party is auditioning to be the opposition party again. It's not the government's job to go after the official opposition, but they viewed it, instead of governing, we're just going to attack the opposition parties. And if you want the job, you're probably going to get it.
Okay. Nasha?
I think in part, Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are deflecting a little bit from their own struggles right now. Again, there was the by-election losses this week and previously earlier in the summer. There's a lot going on, a resignation today. So by attacking the opposition members, I mean, they are doing their best to try and show Canadians that maybe they're in better shape than they are.
I'd also say that people don't know Poilievre well enough, and I think it's about time that the Liberals and the NDP start, exposing some of his policy positions or what is going to happen. People have been focused on they're angry at Justin, and that's, I think, why we're seeing the polling numbers where they are. But I'm not sure how much they've sat down and really considered what the alternative will mean.
Well, of course, as we gather here, and given what the Conservatives have said, try to bring down the government as soon as they can, and of course how struggling the Liberals are in the poll numbers, there is a lot of talk right now. When will there actually be an election? October of next fall was the working theory last spring. Given how toxic things are right now, how strong the language is right now, like really on all sides in this first week back, how much longer do you think this Parliament can actually stand?
Well, best case is to the budget, whenever that gets tabled, April, May, June, in that, because the government has some say on when they're going to table the budget. But given the level of rhetoric and given the toxicity and all of the potential shenanigans that could happen, I'd say 50-50 we can make it to spring.
Cool.
If I look at Toronto St. Paul's and I look at the result in Montreal, there's negative, ongoing, consistent, negative momentum for the Liberal Party of Canada. They got less than 5% in Winnipeg. That's a score they haven't netted since 1917. These are historical lows for the Liberal Party. And what are you going to do to improve your situation to give you a fighting chance in the next election? You might end up being the third or fourth party afterwards, back to 2011 levels.
Okay. What do you think?
I think from an NDP perspective, we can't forget there is also provincial elections happening in October. So we see, I believe it's BC, Saskatchewan, and New Brunswick are going to be hitting the polls. And we all know there is voter confusion when you start to have that many elections all at once. And the NDP is currently government in BC, and they have a shot in Saskatchewan. So when they're making a decision on whether or not they want to go to an election, though it may not be their decision in the end, there is other parties at play. I think they're going to take that into account. So we're going to have to see, but I do agree. I think it will be difficult to get past the budget this upcoming spring.
Okay.
We factor in, we don't know when the Ontario election is going to be as well. There's another wild card in your planning.
Well, guaranteed we're here until the budget, if not afterwards. So for this evening, thank you very much for the time. Stevie, Cole, and Nasha, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.